Hi everyone, I've just come to share with you step by step on how I created the cover of this journal that I'm working on. I'm just trying to find the middle so I can lay it flat. Anyway, sorry the lighting isn't great. I used an old, oh, it was a rice box. It was a rice box and it's quite a small journal. Can't remember the measurements, but you can make your own any size you like. I'm going to be using another recycled box, reinforcing it with some cardstock. Then I'm going to create this kind of crinkled full leathery look. I have done this before, but what I haven't done before is doing it with the spine with these little ridges on here, and I've seen many people do this. Zoe Tolfield, Nik the Booksmith, and they've all got their own ways of doing it. But as I shared this on Junk Journal Junkies, and I've had so many requests on how did I do it, so I'm just going to show you. Right, I'm still working on that journal. So to start with, as I don't have really long pieces of cardstock, so I have taped these two together. I just used double-sided tape, and these are 2 A4 sheets. And the join you do not see once you're finished. I'm using a Jaffa cake box, and I didn't eat any of these whatsoever. You can glue these down onto the white cardstock, or you can tape it. I'm doing it with the tape because it's quicker and I don't have to wait for anything to dry. So like I said, I'm not sure the measurement of this one, but you can create yours using any size box or cards or cardboard or whatever you have. So I'm just going to take all these off and when I do this, all the little white bits go straight on the floor. Now I'm having to stretch around my tripod-y thing, so if I knock it, I'm ever so sorry. Right, so I'm just gonna line that up there, making sure it's pretty straight, and just give it a little rub down. I'm just going to take the tape off of this. I'm not claiming this to be my original idea. It's just some of this I've learned, years ago, and it was from other people, and I can't remember who it was at the time. So on this piece here, I want to leave quite a good gap on here because I want it to, obviously, it's going to be cardstock, and I need it to bend well. So I'm going to give it about that, which is, let me see, I'm not very good at, this is just well, nearly 2/8 of an inch of the gap. The other one I didn't do as much, but I did realise that I should have left the gap a little bit wider. So it's always a learning experience when you do something. I'm going to try this again with fabric as well. I bought some fabric glue at the weekend, but I do think you could just use Mod Podge. So that's that on there. Now, where's my scissors gone? Oh, there they are. So I'm gonna just trim around, leaving, a good amount, obviously, so that I can fold it in on itself. I mean, if you want, you can do this very precise, but since it gets folded in and then covered over, you don't actually see it, so it's not something that I actually worry a hell of a lot about. So I'm just going to mitre the corners, and this is how I do mine. I never have any problems with, because I used to do it a different way, and sometimes I would end up with a little gap, and I didn't like the little gap, so this way has always worked a treat for me. So that's that. So I'm just going to manipulate these bits in, and then I'm going to stick some double-sided tape on that. Now I am just showing how to do the cover. I'm not going to show putting in the signatures or anything like that. I have got a video way back of how to do, because I'm using a hidden spine in this, a hidden binding, if that's what you want to call it. So I'm just going to run some tape. Again, you could glue this, but then it's just the waiting time, and I don't want to be waiting too much to do. Now my double-sided tape I just buy from the range here in the UK. It's like £1 a roll, and I don't use a lot of it, so I do normally try and keep quite a few in my stash, because when I run out it's not on the doorstep to go there. So I'm just going to fold them in and rub it down, and again on that side. And then these, you can do this, the little sides first if you wish, but that's just how I do mine. And you can use your bond folder to burnish them down and make sure it's all. So I'm just going to manipulate that up nice and slowly. Actually, bond folder would be good here just to make sure that that's the tape stuck down, and then just like that. Now if I wasn't doing what I'm about to do, I would ink all this up if it was just for like a normal journal. Okay, so I've created another piece of card here that's going to stick just on the top of this outside bit. Now I wasn't quite sure, because obviously when the pieces that I've used within are obviously slightly smaller than what the cover actually measures out at, because the cardstock adds on a teeny weeny bit of measurement. So I'm just gonna trim that off with my big dangerous knife. Oops, that just moved. Actually I might just use my scissors because that's slippy. On the other side it's a shiny, there we go. Yeah, because it's shiny it's moving about on here, and I'm going to stick it down that side. So back to my double-sided tape again, and I'll just run that along there. And this tape's really good because it breaks off. It's not like you need to get your scissors out and cut it, because there is some tapes like that and that drives me nuts. So where's my ladle? This used to be my craft knife, now it's just for lifting up the paper on this. Okay, so I'm going to try my best now to, I know there's so much shadow and I do apologise, to line that up just like that, because I just want to give it a little bit more of a thickness on the spine. So okie dokies. Now I've trimmed all these little pieces of card and they're just gonna stick on there, so I just need to measure one, because again I wasn't quite sure what they were going to be, so you'll just have to watch me trim these for a second. And obviously I'm using 5, is it 5 I'm using? Yep, I'm right off frame here I think. So this is just another fun way of creating a different type of journal cover. My hands are quite cold as well, it's very cold here today. and we have been predicted some real cold weather this week with the possibility of lots of snow, so that'll be all fun and games. Okay, now you can eyeball this or you can measure it out into 5 spaces. I'm going to measure it out into 5 spaces. So the full length of the journal is, oops, is there. So I'm just going to mark one there, one here, and then I'm trying to get the middle of these two now. It's about there, maybe. There and there. Okay, I'm just going to get my glue out, and I'm just going to put the glue. I'm trying to keep the lid off this, and it kind of semi upside down so that I don't have to wait for it, because it's only like a third full at the moment. Okay, so my middle one is going to go here. Now this, I need to obviously wait for that to dry, but my tape's too big to do on this, and obviously I want this to stay pretty well because it's on the spine. Just checking on my camera, sorry I've just nudged it. It doesn't, well, I know it's not going to be perfect, but it's because I can't really get my head right over and have a bird's eye view. But you can measure this to your best when you do it, if you try it, that is. Okay, now that will obviously take a few moments to dry, and what I'm just going to do is pause and wait for that, and then I will be back to show you what I do in the next step. Okay, the little strips have all dried, and something else I wanted to say, you could actually put double strips on there if you want it to be a little bit thicker, but I'm just doing it like this for now. So now I'm going to use my Mod Podge, and I'm just gonna cover this side first and the spine. Do a little bit on this side because I'm using 2 sheets of tea stained paper, and I've got some baby wipes to hand, because once I've done this I need to wipe around so that the baby wipes, the tea dyed paper doesn't stick to the surface, and then we get in a right mess. So I'm putting quite a liberal amount on here, especially right up close to the edges of these little ridges. Now you don't have to, I've crinkled my paper up, you don't have to crinkle it up, but if you want that look you can certainly crinkle it up, or you can leave it flat, or like I said, you could use fabric. But I have had some ideas on doing some different ones, like paper and fabric. Again, that's very much inspired by Zoe and Nik the Booksmith. Right, I'm gonna give underneath there a little wipe so we don't get everything stuck, and I'm just going to use my dry baby wipe to dry it up. So it's my crinkled up tea stained paper, making sure I'm still in frame, and I'm just going to take it over just a little bit, and I'm just using my fingers, I'm just rubbing it into the creases, over onto the spine, and it's just using my fingers I don't know if anyone's done this and they've done it differently, but this is how I'm doing it. And it's leaving some nice veiny marks on here. So I'm just concentrating, that's why I'm not talking. Just using my whole hand, and I mean, if I think I might need to add a little bit more onto here. And just again a quick wipe, because I want it obviously to all stick down. I'm not putting too much pressure on this because obviously it's wet underneath, and we know what happens when paper gets wet, it starts to tear. So just rubbing it in. Very good exercise for your hands. And just going over it. Again, to make sure it's all stuck down. Sometimes I find the corners are never stuck right down. Just giving that another wipe. There's no doubt some of that's oozed out. Okay, now to do the other side. Now if there's little bits that aren't stuck down, now's the time to do that. Now you will see a slight join, but if you have got larger paper, which I actually do, I should have maybe coffee stained or tea stained that instead, and then I wouldn't have to have used two pieces. Okay, and I just want to wipe that again. A lot of wiping going on. Oh, and dry it. Oh, wrong one. So my other piece of crinkled up tea dyed paper, and I'm just gonna line that up there and just do the same, rub it in. And I would start from obviously where you stick it down and work your way out. And I kind of like all that, how all the veins just appear. Whoops, just wobbled the camera. So now I am just gonna give that a wipe again. So now I've got that done, I can see that these corners here are not really stuck down, so I'm just going to go in and just add a little bit there, just press down, and in here and press down. Then I'm coming in with my scissors and I'm just going to trim, leaving again some just so I can mitre it and fold it in. to get rid of that. Could use it for something else, but I'm not going to. Back in with the Mod Podge here, just around the edges. Making sure you've got everywhere covered so that you can fold that in kind of neatly. And then just fold it in and just rub it down. Now obviously the inside of the book looks like yucky at the moment, but that will all get covered over when I eventually use this. Which will probably be after I finished the other one, the one that I showed you at the beginning. Just need to add a little piece here because of that join, and just fold that in. It's just squishing down all the lumpy bumpy bits. And again on this side. And obviously always try and do this piece before you fold this piece on that joins onto it, if that makes sense. And try not to get so much glue on your hands, because when you're rubbing it on you may rip the paper, and at this point you don't want to do that. Okay, so nearly done here. Now what I would do now, which I'm going to do, once I've done these two a bit, I will pause again because I want this to dry properly before I start inking it up. Just making sure them corner pieces are going to go on okay. If you just need to add a little bit of glue, you can just rub your brush in there and then just squish it down. So you know, there's no fancy tools, there's no, it's, you know, if you don't have Mod Podge you can use PVA and just water it down just a little bit, and that works just as well. Or yeah, PVA, tacky glue, you could use tacky glue. So right, I'm going to leave that to dry and I will be back to show you what I'm going to do to the front. Okay, it's all dry, I hope. So now I'm just coming in with my Vintage Photo Distress ink, and I'm just going to just rub it all over, just like that. You can use any colour you like. I did actually think on the other one that I was doing, I was gonna use blue, because the journal kit that I'm using for that, it's got a little bit of blue in it, but I didn't. So just rubbing that all over. I'm going to turn that around because my arm won't stretch right around this tripod. Now the first time I tried this, I done it on a little a teeny weeny journal. It was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and I have tried it on like soft covers as well, like on the clasp envelopes. I'm just going to try and emphasize this a little bit on the ridges and on the spine. And then maybe around the edges a little bit more, because I'm going to seal this with Mod Podge, and it does take some of the colour. It dulls, I think it dulls it a little bit, so put on as much as you want or as little as you want. Now this part is just personal preference. Then I obviously have to flip it over and go around these edges here. Now I did say that I wasn't going to show sewing in the signatures, but what I will do, because I've already sewn the ones into the other journal, I thought I could have just videoed that part and added it onto the end of this, but clearly I'm not that clever. So what I'll do is, when I am going to fill this, I will show you how to put the hidden signature or hidden binding, whatever it's called. But there is many videos out there that you can just look on YouTube for, and it will show you. So that is what I've done, and obviously I'll need to leave that to dry for a little bit, because it's obviously the stress stain is slightly wet. So I'll give that a few minutes and then I'll come back and I'll just show you me Mod Podging it. Right, it's all dry, so I'm just going to Mod Podge it now. So I'm just using the mat. I don't have any problems with this, but I have seen many people say that they find it very sticky, and I have yet to have a problem. I've been using this for quite a few years. I do think people have said it's about, you know, what climate you live in and it can affect it, but like I said, I don't get any stickiness from it whatsoever, because if I did I wouldn't use it. I'm applying this pretty liberal as well. And kind of making sure it's getting into all the little like creases and whatnot, and making sure there's quite a bit on the spine. You can go back over it and give it, once it's dry, give it another coat, making sure there's a nice bit down the spine there. Not the spine, these little grooves at the side. I've just got to turn that around. As you can see the difference, it has got lighter with a Mod Podge on it. So that is pretty much all I did. It's not rocket science. Very easy, and it's things that you have. It's, you know, we've all got boxes that we can recycle. I mean, you can use the, you know, the chipboard if you buy that, and obviously your journal will be like super chunky. You know, not the journal but the actual cover. But by adding the cardstock to it is kind of reinforced it a hell of a lot. You know, and we've all got coffee dyed paper. So that is pretty much, that is pretty much all I did to create. I'm just going to move this. Yep, so that's pretty much all I did to create that. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. And I did add a little bit of Inca Gold on here, but I did want to try and just get it on there, but I got in a bit of a mess, and my Inca Gold is like a couple of years old and it's getting a bit hard. So if anyone knows how to liven that up a little bit, that would be a nice tip. So this is the one that I'm going to be working on, and I've got to print some more stuff off, and I'm going to sew bits and stick them into it. So I hope this was useful, and like I said, I will, when I go to whatever theme I'm going to be doing with this, when I go to sew the signatures in, I will show you how I done that, because it isn't very hard. But you can search on YouTube and find how others do that. So I think I've explained it as best as I can, but if there's anything that you still feel that you need to know, then just ask and I will try and answer it. So thank you for watching. Bye.